Computer. All right, it's June 27th. We've got the All-Star cast. We've gone international finally with Steph reporting in from the south end of Lake Garda. Lucky you. And the rest of us, I think that most of us are either in Newport or the West Coast. And Gary, you're the loner down there in Annapolis. So hey, thanks everybody for dialing in for this another nutty episode. So our special guest today is, at least on my screen, down there in the middle to the right, is Anthony Kotoun, who's got the M32 behind him. You've got quite a fleet of boats in here in Newport. You've got the Mod 70. I've seen at the dock. You've done some long distance burns on that thing, and then you're mixing it up with some 32 racing. That's not too bad for a summer gig, huh?
That's good. Yeah, the training wheels have been on, and not too much monohull sailing anymore, and it's been mostly multi-hulls. And we did a very informal regatta. We called it the Cobweb Cup to make sure we could all still do it. And that was, the first regatta, I guess you would say, of the season. Just the kind of local Newport boats. Then we did a training session on the Mod 70 where we did a lap around Jamestown trying to break the record. Came ashore. Owner wanted to do an overnighter, so we jotted home real quick, got our long underwear and headlamps, and did a burn into Long Island Sound. And then the next weekend, we just had officially regatta #1 of the Newport Marstrom series. So yeah, 3 weekends in a row of all great sailing, and yeah, very lucky, fast, fun boats with a good team.
So did you break the record?
Yeah, go ahead.
Missed it by 2 minutes. I think the other Mod 70 Fado from about 3 or 4 years ago had a westerly that was 18 to 20 knots, and we had an easterly that was about 14, and missed it by about 2 minutes.
Same tide flow?
We kind of had like a neutral flow, but the damn thing goes so fast. We were kind of like, we should just go the other way and just do an official test as to which one is faster. But yeah, we didn't.
So where do you think you lost your 2 minutes?
Just wind speed. I think they had Fado had another 3 or 4 knots of wind speed. And that's the difference between 25 knots of boat speed and 30 something. So over 50 minutes, that adds up.
So how many miles and what is the current record standing?
A kiteboarder by the name of Zach Marks. Maybe you Florida folks can help me out with that. I think he has the outright, which I think is in the low 50s, but Fado has 56 and we did 58. But I think we also did it in the GC in like 58-ish, but the foils ripped apart and they kind of finished with half foils.
Cool. Well, hey, so we've seen it in Newport down the waterfront. It seems to be behind this bar called the Midtown Oyster Bar, who's one of the owners of these 32s. That he's building a little bit of a high performance thing there on the last remaining commercial fishing pier. What's the story down there?
So yeah, as many people would know that Newport used to be full of commercial fishing piers and boatyards well before my time, but slowly development has taken over and it's all condos now or hotels, and there's one left, and it was owned by this Portuguese family, and it had been dilapidated and unused for about 10 years, but they're a little in a pickle in that they're too big of a family. They can't figure it out. They're all poor. They can't decide if they want to sell, lease, or whatever. But Larry owns the rights of the road down to it. So basically, the owners can't do anything with it because they can't access it. And they can't sell it to developers because Larry owns the road, which you would then put the utilities in. Larry being Larry Phillips, the owner of Midtown Oyster Bar, who's lived in town now for a couple years and recently got into sailing and bought this Marstrom. But he did the winter series in Miami, saw the shake-a-leg situation with the big hangar, the access, and it's like, well, I'm going to try and wrangle this land from this family. So he's got a long-term lease and has visions of a shake-a-leg type hangar, as well as a restaurant pier on the end where people can kind of come see the harbor, and enjoy the view and the breeze, but also probably a bit of a wedding factory to capitalize on all the weddings that are going on in Newport these days. But that's his goal, is to have a crane, have the marshrooms, the TF10s, probably a handful of moss and marshrooms around. But yeah, that's his goal. But it's a good one, and we're all hoping it works. The town seems to be behind it, as kind of development is just kind of crashing down on access to the waterfront. Larry's view of this is that it become extremely open with walkways and promote public participation, so that just everybody can get down there and see the water and see what's going on. And yeah, there'll be some race boats around, but hopefully it'll work.
Quite a few little race boats tucked in there at the moment, and but it's what's amazing with this M32 class is that guys like Larry and your new guy, his name escapes me. Who's got the new boat in town?
There's a couple. Surge is a new one.
Surge.
Yeah, Ryan.
And what's Ryan's story? He's new to the class, but he seems to be, again, one of these guys that get an experience in Miami, and for some reason they get hooked.
Yeah, Miami obviously just spoils everybody how awesome it is down there, and just the convenience, the racing, just everything is just so great down there that I think these guys that have made some money and now want to spend it, they get conned into going to Miami, and then it's it goes good from there. Hopefully that will continue. He's got a good young team. He's a young guy. He's athletic, fit, eager. So I think the J70 wanted something a little bit more than that. And, we're all a little guilty in the Marshroom feet of buzzing the J70s, trying to just drum up some interest sometimes. So maybe it worked finally. So I think he wanted one of those. So he chartered, enjoyed it, did okay in Miami, and committed, bought a boat. I think there's rumor that he's buying a house here in Newport. So yeah, he seems to be into it and enjoying it. They have a good, solid team, and as with all these reaching starts and fast action stadium racing, it's only a matter of time before somebody wins a race or does well. It's so jumbled up in the racing style itself that no matter what day, everybody has a race to be proud of.
So yeah, it seems like a good process, just buzzing the fleets and poaching owners. Nicely done. That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, so
we should
we
should all be going for that. Winters in Miami, summers in Newport. Can't really beat that. I agree with Anthony.
All right. So speaking of Miami, this clip's been going around here. I'm going to maybe have you guys, since Taylor's on the boat, and you're going to tell us a little bit about what's going on here. Now, Taylor, you can't speak because you're already yapping in the background of this thing anyway. But so on these reaching starts that we've seen, you guys do for a long time, invented with the Cup. Has it really? I mean, has it changed at all, and how you set up, and one end of the line or other? How do you get out of this start line and get out front?
It's a lot of fun. It's very random, but it's very enjoyable to start this whole thing off and then instantly be doing 20 knots 4 wide into the first mark. But generally, you kind of do what we call dummy runs, test runs at the line. You'll do one from the top, you'll do one from the bottom, do one from the middle. Check out your boat speed on the Velocitech. Just get the feeling of the boat, if it's tight, if it's too broad. The boat obviously doesn't have a jib, so if you start up at the top here, like the sail, the white hull with the orange dash and the mermaid on it, that's the Midtown guy. They're looking pretty good up there, and everybody's like, oh, they'll be reaching and they'll be fast, but sometimes that angle is too deep, and it's not great because you're having to head up for power, but the mark is low. So then you're at this crux of what to do. But here at the bottom, you can see Hedgehog with the Bermuda, and they're starting low, and they've got a really good jump on the fleet here. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. The problem with starting low is that if you get run over, it's the dirt blanket, and the days that race is going to be a hard one here. But you can see I'm on the red boat here to leeward of Taylor on section 16. We're both just a little bit late. And then you can see this mid bow. That's Jen Wilson, one of our female drivers, and she just comes and mows us over. both of us. So you're just kind of like trying to hang on at this point. But yeah, sometimes the low boat is good. Sometimes the high, depends on the condition. The good coaches will help you out with how many boat lengths the pin in is advantaged by, and then what the true wind angle is, you know, and try and work from there.
So is that the mode of if you can get a little bit of jump to just put the bow down and just get up in front of people and just set up?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes you obviously pay for it at the end when you got to come back up. But the number one goal for the first 10, 15 seconds is to just get going fast as possible here. That, you know, that's the key.
All right, Taylor, what say you about your setup on the start there?
Oh, not our best, I can say that. That's for sure. A little bit late, but yeah, you know, like Anthony said, the racing is just incredible. You know, coming into that mark, all doing 20 plus knots side by side. You know, feet between the boats. It's so exciting, and you know, we were in a tough position here, so opted to jibe set out of that reach mark, and then proceed to overstand the leeward mark by several lengths. So again, it's not a proud moment for me, but yeah, again, it's super exciting, and you know, the boats are actually, you know, they look intimidating from watching a lot of the video, and but they're surprisingly easy to sail, and you know, a group of 4, even 3 guys can sail the boats quite easily, and I think again that even though they look a little bit intimidating, they're quite easy to sail and simple and easy to put together, and you know, you can ramp launch them, you can crane launch them, so there's, I don't know, it's the perfect class, and you know, you get that just exhilarating feeling doing 20 plus knots downwind, but the racing is just so tight. You know, the one design nature of it just keeps everything really tight and exciting.
So, I mean, Don Wilson has obviously been doing a ton of sailing on all sorts of boats and this, but I mean, like some of the newer owners, I mean, is it even feasible to jibe out of a mark like that, or you really just kind of have to play conservative all the way around?
I mean, to be honest, the drivers can really put the boat wherever they want, and it's up to the crew to keep up.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, the boats are built with a ton of buoyancy in the bows. So, you know, sometimes the bows will go in. You saw just a second ago, the boat actually came up on the foils out of the jibe. If you don't load up one of the foils, or you have both boards in through a jibe, and you don't, you know, load the platform up onto one of the foils, you sometimes get a little bit of lift and the thing starts to foil. But again, they're, you know, pretty safe, and yeah, I think like really the owners just kind of need to get comfortable with themselves driving the boats, and then the crew just works around that.
Mm. Anthony, you've been through quite a few owners through these kind of high performance classes like this, you know, in the early days of the 32s and stuff, the Mildred's 32s. How is this different?
And this is by far my favorite. It's good, solid fundamentals. You know, you look at this and you say, oh, it's extreme catamaran, the guys are wearing spandex and helmets, but it comes down to the fundamentals. You got to know how to tack, jibe, start, and call lay line. Tuning isn't really that important. There's not much picky on your upper end of success. You know, just the bottom line comes down to being able to start, lay line, and just do basic boat handling. So for me, that is very, very refreshing. And as, you know, as Taylor says, the boats look intimidating, but they're simple. There's minimal work list at the end of the day. It's only like, you know, 10 minutes, whereas the GC is like, you know, a couple hours. There's just not a lot to the boat. It's a glorified Hobie 16, basically, even more dumbed down than that. But you know, the racing, you can see these are all tight leeward mark roundings. The first one's usually, you know, it's usually got some boat on boat tactics going on, but we have 2 or 3 judges there, umpires, and we also sail with a different set of rules than most people. We sail with what's called the high performance or the fast cat rules or something like that, which is incredibly more simple. There's no more attacking too close. The windward gate, the inside boat now, the windward gate is more like the leeward gate, and that if you're not laying the buoy, you can tack onto port, create yourself some room, and then tack back. So basically, inside boat has right of way, just like the leeward mark. And so these rules have made it very easy for owners to understand. And I think kind of the style of the fleet and the boat is just simple, nice, and it's about the racing. And we've collected owners that support that and maybe just live by that theory themselves. And rarely is there any contact. There's usually no issues, and everybody plays very nice. And the boats are fun to sail, so people just kind of want to get out of these little nitpicky situations and just go fast and have fun.
So you got to admit though, like this entry into this mark has got to be pretty nutty at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like it is from the drone, but it's not nearly as bad on the boat.
Oh, it looks pretty intimidating when you're going in there at that pace. But I guess just learn to get around safely and find your moments to get back to the race, like anything else.
Yeah. There you go. Everyone's in line nicely. No collisions. It worked out perfectly.
All right, I've lost my mouse.
We can also hit the marks, so that makes it also a little bit of fun.
Hitting the rack is the penalty anyway. So anyway, so we'll fast track this one. And these guys were in the back of the fleet, if I remember right, and you kind of like chipped your way back. And where's the finish? What was happening here, Taylor? Maybe we can put a little volume on here.
Yeah, not sure if it goes all the way to the end, but definitely a tough race for us. And again, like Anthony said, it's very simple. It's a lot about lane management and your moding. So yeah, I think it's there's a big emphasis on the drivers. So you have to knowing from having driven these boats a lot, you have to stay so focused to keep these boats like on their feet and in a really good mode. It takes a lot of mental effort, and by the end of the day, you're completely drained. So, but yeah, again, it's a lot of fun, and everyone on the boat is really working hard. It's not just guys hiking, sitting around. It's everyone's super active, and I think that's a really, really cool benefit of it as well. That everyone has like very specific roles on board and are staying busy.
Nice. Well, cool. Well, you guys got a few more events lined up, and then you got a world championship at some point this fall.
Depends on if Miami gets their act together.
Yeah. Well, you
scheduled for November.
Yeah, right. Could it happen up there if Miami never gets good? Could you? All the boats seem to be here. Could you do it in Newport?
I mean, that's the parking lot rumor right now. Obviously, that would be a hope and a dream to land a world championship of this caliber right in our backyard. But as with everything these days, who knows?
Wait and see. All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys. Stephanie, we're checking in from you. We haven't seen you in a while. You've been out training, and then apparently you jumped on a plane and just landed feet first into in the heavenly land of Lake Garda. So, hey, quick, what's the scoop? What are you doing there?
Yeah, so we had 4 weeks of training in Miami. Maggie and I hadn't been on the water in almost 3 months, so we were really excited to be back on the water. And we really lucked out with the conditions down there. Had beautiful sea breeze every day. Taylor was out coaching us a little bit, which was fun. Yeah, we were just really focused on getting back into the groove. After 3 months, like it was a pretty big shock to the system to be back in the boat, and especially a high performance boat like the 49er. So yeah, we felt really lucky to have the conditions that we did, and we were on our own, so we've just focused on a ton of boat handling, a lot of different situations, and we actually got access to a gym up there as well, down there, wherever there is. We got access to a gym through the U.S. sailing team, and we were able to make some good progress there as well. So really happy with that opportunity. And then our coach, Julia, kind of pulled some strings and hooked us up with an invite to train with the Italian sailing team in Lake Garda. So we heard about this on 2 Mondays ago and got on a flight on Saturday evening to come over here. It all happened super quickly, but we felt like it was the best opportunity for us right now. We're just training on your own can get a little bit hard after a while, and we really wanted to get on the water with some other boats and do some racing as well. So this being here, we have to do 2 weeks of quarantine, which is obviously a bit hard, but we're starting week 2 today. So we've turned the corner and are on the final countdown of that. And then we'll hit the water for a couple weeks here in Garda, and then go up to Aarhus, Denmark for a regatta up there, and then drive down to Kiel and do Kiel week September 10th through 13th. So it was, yeah, kind of a mad mission to get out of Miami, but we were really happy with the opportunity. And you know, racing is a really important part of our process towards the games right now, and this opportunity allows us to do it pretty much 5 months earlier than expected. So really happy that we're over here.
Yeah, it's outstanding. That was kind of the one thing that was sort of taken away, was the ability to have some international racing and be able to check in with everybody else. And what a cool opportunity. Is that an option for anybody else on the sailing team as well at this point, or is everybody tiptoeing to see where they can get to?
We received special permission from the Italian sailing team and Olympic Committee, and they coordinated with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the U.S. sailing team. They all kind of worked together, and yeah, it was just really lucky how it all worked out, and we're super grateful for the opportunity and the support of the U.S. And the Italian federations to do this.
Yeah, amazing. What was the hardest part about jumping back in the boat after timeout, muscle memory wise? Just how was the boat handling?
We actually came back like a lot quicker than we expected. You know, it's like riding a bike. You just kind of hop right back into it. I mean, maybe Taylor has a different opinion because he was out there watching us. But I think the biggest battle we had was actually with the heat. It was really hot in Miami, and you know, our minds were like just so excited to get back in the boat, and we were just like, you know, itching to do as much as we could, and like the heat and you know, that was a really big factor. And then just like mentally or physically, your body just can't keep up with it either. So we definitely had to build back up. And the heat training was good though. It was like Japan. It was as hot as Japan will be next year. And so we were able to kind of experiment and understand a bit more of what we need with cooling down techniques and hydration and all that.
It was the hottest week in Miami history since what, like 1960 something or 1860 something. Crazy.
Yeah.
Like the first week they were back in the boat, it was like just ungodly hot.
It was hot.
It was really hot.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to be sort of back on the international circuit. It's cool. Does anybody want to throw a question Stephanie's way?
I got one. How many bags did you have to travel with to Italy?
We had 8 bags. We had a box with 2 masts inside, a box of sails, a bike box, and then 5 duffel bags.
That's a while.
We might be moving here. I don't know.
Oh wait, Anthony, you got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hey, I have a question for Anthony, Dave. You know, I find it interesting that you make your own rules there, that tacking too close is you just stay away from the boat tacking, and then I can imagine 2 tacks at a windward mark with the inside. Do you think those rules should apply to all sailing?
You know, great question. I've thought about that. For me, the answer would be yes. To get slightly technical for half a second, you know, imagine 2 boats on port tack. You've rounded the leeward mark. The guy in front of you didn't have as great of a rounding, and he's to leeward and ahead. And he wants to tack because he's getting it from the 3rd boat in front of him, but he can't because you're there for tacking too close. Now he just does. But we all know this. Everybody on board knows this. And so we're prepared that this guy just might turn. But the rule basically says that he can head up as much as he wants because he's the leeward boat. And as soon as he passes head to wind, he's now the starboard tack boat. What's gone is that gray area between head to wind and close hauled. And we've all probably argued that till it's dead in the protest room of my battens had flipped or, you know, whatever. And it's too gray. There's too much ambiguity and gray, and it leads to a lot of he said, she said variability. And now it's just, you go from becoming right of way being the leeward boat to then becoming right of way as the starboard boat. And there's no transitional questioning period, which makes it very easy. The weather mark situation, you know, it takes a little while to get used to that this guy can come in on port tack. And now, instead of, telling the owner to shut him out, now you just have to be like, remember that guy has rights and we have to create some space for him. It's a little weird. It takes 1 or 2 interactions, but then after a while you embrace it because there's just hardly any more interaction between the pros, the owners. The rules are just very simple. And it has taken a lot of the rules out of the racing. With so many boats and stadium racing, you're bound to have kind of rule infractions and get-togethers because it's tight racing. But with this new set of rules, there's hardly any. Maybe and Taylor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think throughout the day you'll see less than 5 or 6 flags, and maybe 2 or 3 penalties through the day, which for 5 or 6 races, probably 7 or 8 mark roundings per race, and between 10 and 15 boats, that's not bad numbers. So yes, I enjoy it. I like it. It's just simpler. Maybe sailing's complicated enough. The rules are holy moly complicated, and any effort to pare it down a little bit and make it simpler seems like a win in my mind.
Great, thank you.
Dave,
Totally.
we've been using those rules for a couple of years in the RC44 class with the monohulls. Not the upwind, the port boat is inside at the mark rule, but certainly the tacking rule. And one thing it does that's really nice is it takes away all the ambiguity in the pre-start. When you're reaching down the line, if you're on port tack and you're reaching along and you want to tack and go over to starboard, you just can. You don't have to wait for that big gap, which does save a lot of aggravation in that area of the course. Same thing at the top mark. You come into the weather mark. If you're to leeward of a group of boats and you're on port tack and you want to tack and get to the mark, you just do it when you want to. You don't have to wait until they all tack behind you. So in that sense, you're still almost ahead legally on the regular rules, but now you can secure that by being, by being able to tack right away. The opposite happens though when you're lee bowing somebody and you keep, you're on port tack and you keep lee bowing that starboard guy all the way up the leg. You can't quite cross him, but now you can just keep doing that with impunity and you never get in trouble. So you can push him right off to the side, and the starboard strength gets less in that situation. So there's places where it's good, and like Anthony says, going around the leeward mark and tacking right away, that can be good if you're in a boat that is capable of suddenly responding to that. But the surprises come when you're sailing with you're overpowered, piece of equipment, the vang's on hard and the running backstays are set up for attack, and then suddenly you have to duck somebody who decides to tack right in front of you. So that, it's not right for every class, but it's certainly interesting to have something different like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And Anthony, I think the simplicity is great, but you actually fast forwarded through a pretty hairy moment for us in that video you were showing. A boat, came around the leeward mark and was set up just, bow forward to leeward of us, midtown, and they just threw it into attack. And, we're doing 14, 15 knots upwind, and they basically parked it in attack. So they went from doing 14, 15 to 0. And, we, only being probably a length and a half behind them, had to do a quick duck. And, we ended up flying over the transom of their boat. So, if the Traveler guy had eased the Traveler a little bit more, we would have taken their rudder off and probably come down on them. So, I think there is something to be said about, requiring right of way and then giving, another boat room to keep clear. And some of these rules do make that a little bit harder for, the keep clear or give way boat, not having enough time to do so. So, but overall, I do like
the other side of all that, that we did a few years ago was all that extreme sailing circuit where we did the 40-footers, and it was the same concept where you had the stadium racing, and we did 8 or 10 races in a day. And like Anthony said, if you have a lot of races, the goal becomes getting a high average and not, being aggressive and attacking in every little situation. So you're looking for ways to get yourself out front, not just ways to control the one boat that's nearby. And of course, with the catamarans, they go so much faster that if you get tangled up in a messy situation with other boats, the fleet's gone. Whereas in a monohull race, you can fight a little bit for some 30, 40 seconds with somebody and still not lose a place to anybody else. So with the stadium racing, it is something that's very nice to have simple, quick rules that just give you that. You get lots of races in, you're not going to do well in every single one of them. And it's good for that situation.
This is good. Turned into a nice rule discussion. The best one is the touching the marks, which I think should be that should be thrown out of the rule book, period, right? I remember in Garda, that was kind of a thing too. You were allowed to hit the marks. Is that still true over there?
I think it just depends on the race committee and what their situations are. Sometimes they Italian, maybe they just don't care.
Is that how they treat the quarantine as well, Stephanie?
No, that's surprisingly pretty strict.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, Jonathan, you were we had a lot of ground to cover, but real quick, you were here, I understand, last week in Newport, sort of helping out with some selection trials for an early start of an Olympic offshore campaign. Can you give us any insight into what you were doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a big fan of this new Olympic offshore discipline from the beginning. So I'm doing what I can to try to jumpstart our efforts here in the U.S. to not only come up with a credible team for Paris, but to hopefully build this discipline and build this part of sailing, in a lasting and sustainable way for the future. So in Newport, there's a group that was able to raise some money and got use of a couple of Figaro 3s, which is a pretty cool boat. It's like a 32-foot boat. It's got the foils and it's all set up for shorthanded. It's the boat that they now use for the Solitaire in France, which is the highest level of shorthanded offshore racing. I was there just more, not so much coaching, but just kind of assessing the state of the team and their operations and trying to provide a little bit of advice and guidance of how that can go forward. So there's a couple of excellent athletes that I was primarily working with, Jessie Fielding and Francesca Klapkich. So, and they both have really good experience and, a lot of the attributes that are going to be necessary to be successful at this. It's challenging putting together, a man and a woman that can work well together in that environment, over a 3-day period of a race. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
So when you, with that said, how do you, as an observer and a coach, how do you keep track of that development on the boat if you're not there? I mean,
yeah, I actually sail on the boat primarily. It's in that situation, it's the best way to coach. Mm-hmm. And then you can really see what's going on. You can hear the communications. You can see the way they operate. So, and it's a big enough boat that it's not a big deal. Mm. And it's more fun for me too. I get to pull some ropes every now and then.
So what do you tend to look for? I mean, are there benchmarks for, I mean, it's such an unknown at this point, like what works, what doesn't in as this co-ed relationship develops?
Well, there's a number of aspects of it. Ultimately you have to learn how to sail that particular boat. But that's not going to be the boat that's going to be in the Olympics most likely. And that we won't know what that boat is until probably a year before the games. And that's intentional. To try to have people learn the discipline and not just focus on being fast in a Figaro 3, for example. So, what does learning the discipline mean, it's quite wide ranging. You need to prepare your boat. You need to have the speed skills. You need to be a good driver. You need to have the navigation. You need to figure out the boat handling. There's stacking, there's routing. So it's a lot, a lot of skills, and very few people have all of those skills. There's a lot of people that have some of them.
Do you find early on, so last question is it better to train an offshore sailor, or better to pull somebody like a Stephanie, post Tokyo, to take somebody who's already been down the Olympic path and plug them into a, offshore boat? What's the best approach?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that. You do need to be fast. You need to be a good driver. You need to know how to trim. You need to be able to feel the boat. So that's paramount. So, someone that is like, for example, a top laser sailor, would probably be pretty good at this. And you need to be tough as well. So, and you also need to sort of pace yourself and be methodical in your development, which is one thing that Olympic classes teaches you. But on the other hand, it's hard to develop that backlog of offshore experience and sort of those instincts for the ocean tactics and coastal racing tactics that are going to be necessary. So someone that's only done windward lures is going to be at a disadvantage. But it's all trainable. So, got 4 years to get there, and hopefully we can do it. My goal is that, by seeing a top team and a group that's doing it well at this stage, other people will be motivated to step up their game and come and challenge and, maybe try to get one of those spots or to see that it's time to start sailing if this is something that you want to do.
You need a bit of a private funder at the moment, because I imagine the funding's not quite there under the U.S. sailing team. How do if you didn't have somebody access to a program that exists in Newport, how do others get a crack at kind of getting up to the same level as they are now?
Well, it doesn't, like, if you have access to a suitable boat, it doesn't take that much money just to go sailing and start figuring it out, So, and there's a lot of boats that are suitable, really anything like between 25 and 35 feet, that you can fit an autopilot to. And that's all you really need is to get out there and start figuring it out. And there are some races, there was a race last week in Newport. There's more short-handed races than there is anything else right now. So there's really no excuse. And it takes some money, but it's not, it's not any more than any other Olympic class.
Yeah. Cool. Well, look forward to the reboot. I know that double-handed race was a bit of a drifter here, and I don't think many people made it past Block Island, but it looks like Brad did. Good 24 hours to go, 60 miles, huh?
Yeah, it was a pretty slow race, so I wouldn't read too much into that. But interestingly, who won? But our friends Kenny and Brad Reed, so it shows that older, experienced sailors still have have a lot of what it takes to win in this discipline.
There you go. Well, I think you can watch the winning strategy if you Facebook Moose McClintock, who is recording the start. I think they might have won it right there and then. So maybe, who knows? Yeah. A lot of miles between there and then. But anyway, cool. Well, Gary, what's real quick? Take a check-in from you on the Chesapeake Bay. What's happening?
There's people out sailing like crazy. Boy, there's 505s out there and snipes and 420s out there racing. And then you had some keel boats out racing this weekend. So the social distance part seems to be alive on shore. But out on the water, people are out there sailing. So I'd say things are coming around.
All right, that's good. Hopefully that may be the only nude regatta of the year that we have scheduled at the end of whatever month we're coming up on here in August. So yeah, hopefully keep things clean down there. We'll come down and it may be the second nude regatta of the year and the only. So,
good.
Cool. Keep it clean. Ed, how about you? Still stuck at home?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've been just wishing I could get over to Europe and do what we all do, but all the events just keep being canceled, and now the 52s have canceled the season, so we're on looking towards next year. So, hopefully all the stuff in New Zealand can happen on time and get the America's Cup going. There'll be something happening on a large basis, but it's frustrating. What I'm noticing down here is there's an awful lot of people driving around the neighborhoods looking for places to buy with out-of-state tags. So there's a there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, it looks like fun down there in Florida. I'm going to come down there." So I mean, I know there's been a lot on the news about Florida being having a lot of virus cases and stuff, but I think that's relatively isolated, and the big part of the state is open and running and working hard, and there are a lot of people on the water, like Gary said.
Interesting. So quick your read on the beat. Speaking of the Cup, you mentioned that the American Magic guys have gone sailing, and their second boat is pretty close to being done here in Rhode Island, and there's whispers of it being pretty different. Even though early on everybody said most of the boats would be the same. So if you were to look into the future, what do you think this boat 2 out of American Magic might look like?
Well, I mean, I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I think it's pretty clear that even Dean Barker is saying that that's going to be substantially changed from what they have. And that's always interesting in the Cup world, the substantial change is that because you learned enough about your first one to realize that it wasn't right? Or is that because you just really don't know which one is right, so you're going to go find out? That's always been an interesting one when people make big changes, and I don't know the answer here which way it is, but it's interesting that it's not an iteration of what they have already, but rather they're trying to do something substantially different. It sounds like. The foils are still the foils that I mean, you get the arms from one design providers, and you can make a little bit of difference with your foil tips, I guess, and so maybe that's part of it. But you got to think that there's a lot to the aerodynamics of the hull as it lifts off the water. It just seems like that has to be important to get that right. And there's been enough of differences between the teams to see that it's not a clear answer of how you do that. So maybe that's where they're looking, but it's going to be interesting to see, and they won't have a lot of time to test it and prepare it. It's got to come out and be working right away. And then, of course, the big question is, are the other teams going to be able to come to New Zealand? The virus is flaring up again in parts of the world that weren't expected, and there's places getting shut down again. And so, there's some possibility that some of these teams won't be able to travel when they want to. It's just, it's tough environment right now.
Yeah, crazy. Pedro, you went up to the Upper Great Lakes, had a regatta canceled under your foot, but I think you guys been racing on the 52s. What happened up there after a nice tear down from Mac to Harbor Springs?
Yeah, it was all the boats that did the Bayview Mac race slowly filtered into Harbor Springs a couple of weeks ago, and the Great Lakes 52s had already planned sort of a summer season, and I got to race against Jonathan, and we in the Manitou Challenge, and we did an audible course change, which totally saved us because we were underwater. We sailed a 110-mile race from Harbor Springs up around Manitou Island and back in about 25 plus once the breeze came in, and on 52, a TP 52 or a Great Lakes 52, that's pretty fun. And then with 2 days to go, the formerly Ugata Regatta, which is a 3-day buoy race, got canceled because of yacht club and COVID issues. But a lot of the classes were pretty figured out how to run a race. It's not all that hard. The only hard part in Harbor Springs is the water's really, really deep. Like you need at least 250 feet of anchor line in some places. But we had a great 5-race series and finished up yesterday. The WinQuest won, but barely. And Everybody had a great time. There's 4 boats tied for first for the day yesterday out of the 5. So everybody's gearing to come back in a couple weeks and do it again on the other side of the bay. So at least in northern Michigan, on Lake Michigan, Grand Prix racing is alive and well in a very, very contained, self-contained format.
Yeah. So you connected us to a woman named Sarah Stone who was flying home today, but I think she'll join us next week, an epidemiologist, and is obviously on the crew as well. So we'll talk about it real quickly, but some of the stuff that the protocols she set up, do you find that it worked to keep everybody safe, or did you sort of tweak it after the first couple events?
Yeah, Sarah's very cool. She's, as you say, a trained epidemiologist, and she worked for the CDC. She sort of did it backwards. She's south of 30 years old, rode at Dartmouth, and then went to the big leagues of epidemiology, and now wants to come and do that double-handed racing. So maybe Jonathan can help her. But she put together a really cool program and protocol, and basically, throughout the document, it reminded you that you were taking a risk by basically joining a new family for X period of time. And but the systems that she had in place felt pretty good, and everybody was pretty respectful of it. And I know she's been helping out a number of boats. It'll be interesting if we can get her on the show, because it's, it definitely, some of us are more concerned than others, but it definitely warrants a new approach to sailing together and operating as a team together in a regatta format.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're sort of bucking up against time, so I'll keep this short. And I've got one sort of final thing for you. All right. This is our pop quiz for the week. We told you we'd get back to this here. So let me do a quick one here. Okay. This is from the archives here. I hope you guys can see it. So pop quiz. I'm going to go with Anthony first. What little vessel is this? Okay, you got 5 seconds. All right, Anthony, you failed. That was bad.
I'm going to go with the moth.
Yeah, you got it. All right. There. This is from the Moth Class Files. There you go. That you can see on the leeward deck there. That is a Mach 1 Moth. Wow, what a different boat nowadays, huh?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, though.
I'm proud you got
it. We were in Key Largo one time, all getting ready to launch, and this old timer had to have been in his 70s. Came down and was asking some questions, and they were all pretty good questions. And finally, we were like, did you sail these? And do you know about the Moth? And he was like, yeah, I've won the nationals 3 times and got second at the Worlds a handful of times. So he's like, they don't look anything like they used to, but that's kind of the beauty of the Moth fleet is it's been around for a while, and each one is spectacular in its own right. You can see the difference between those 2 boats, those 2 sails, just everything, and that's what makes the class awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not sure I agree with the premise that somebody over 70 is an old timer.
Good for you, Gary.
And yourself. Cool. Well, Stephanie, I'll give you the last word. What's the ultimate goal to come out of Garda then? What's you gonna come out of there fasting?
Yeah, that's a big goal. We're excited to be around other boats right now and just do a lot of training. Obviously, it's the special part about being in Garda is that we can do 2-a-days with the northerly in the morning and then the southerly in the afternoon. So just really trying to maximize time on the water around other boats and kind of just get back into the racing mentality a bit more. Like I said, we just did 4 weeks on our own and a lot of boat handling, so we're feeling pretty sharp on that and ready to start executing it on the course with other boats.
Awesome. Well, good luck with the training. It's inching closer. So anybody else have any tips for Stephanie as she puts in the hard hours?
Do you like the morning wind or the afternoon wind better?
I like the morning wind because it's pretty shifty and reminds me a lot of sailing at home.
Stephanie, did you bring did they provide the boat or did you guys ship over boats?
We had a boat in Barcelona, luckily, so that made it pretty easy to come over here, and we just didn't have any masts, so we had to fly with our masts and Yeah, the airlines don't like us when we show up with that equipment, but luckily they were pretty desperate for some money and were willing to take it.
Yeah, that doesn't qualify for the surfboard upcharges. So what was the total in baggage fees off the top of your head real quick?
We only paid $400, which
Unbelievable.
I don't know. Yeah, so 8 bags. Not
Excellent.
bad.
All right, well, train away, have fun. Thank you, everybody, for all your time.
Thank you.
Your contribution is great, and have a good week. Stay healthy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Dave,
good to see everyone.
Cheers.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
See you, everybody.